My father placed a $32,000 loan agreement beside my Thanksgiving plate and said, "Sign it. Your sister needs a car, an apartment, and money to start her business." 12 relatives turned to look at me. My mother squeezed my shoulder. "Don't embarrass this family, Nora. You're the successful one." Across the table, my younger sister Chloe was already crying. "I promise I'll pay back every dollar." I picked up the silver pen. My father smiled. Then I snapped it in half. "I'm not signing anything." The entire table went silent. Dad's face turned dark red. "You came here just to humiliate us." "No," I said. "You invited the family because you thought I'd be too ashamed to say no in front of them." Chloe covered her face and ran from the dining room. Mom pointed toward the front door. "Get out." I stood, took my coat, and left them sitting around the table. The next morning, Dad called me. "We're having a family meeting this afternoon. You're going to fix what you did." I looked at the 3 fraudulent loan applications spread across my kitchen counter. "I'll be there." What I didn't tell him was that I wouldn't be coming alone. My name is Nora Hayes. I was 32 years old and worked as a risk operations manager for a health insurance company in Arlington. The job sounded glamorous when my parents described it to other people. "Our Nora manages corporate risk," Mom would say, as if I spent my days advising presidents and negotiating international mergers. In reality, I reviewed vendor contracts, investigated mismatched financial records, and asked uncomfortable questions when numbers did not make sense. It was not glamorous, but it paid well, and I was good at it. I owned a modest townhouse. I had excellent credit. I contributed to my retirement account every month and drove a Honda that clicked whenever I turned left. To my family, that made me wealthy. More importantly, it made me useful. My younger sister Chloe was 26. Chloe was beautiful in the effortless way that required 2 hours of preparation. She had long blonde hair, pale green eyes, and a talent for making every room feel as if it had been waiting for her to enter. She also possessed another talent. She could transform responsibility into cruelty. If you asked why she had not paid her rent, you were attacking her mental health. If you asked what happened to the money Dad gave her, you were obsessed with control. If you refused to solve her latest crisis, you were jealous of her potential. Chloe had attempted 7 careers in 6 years. Photography, wedding planning, luxury candles, vintage clothing, life coaching, social media consulting, and for 3 weeks, something she called spiritual interior design. Every project began with an expensive logo and ended with a family emergency. My parents never called them failures. They called them learning experiences. When I was 16, I worked at a grocery store to buy my first laptop. When Chloe turned 16, Dad bought her a convertible because, according to him, creative people need freedom. When I graduated from college, my parents gave me a card and asked whether I could lend them $3,000 for property taxes. When Chloe dropped out after 1 semester, they threw her a new beginnings party. I had spent most of my life being told that I was stronger than she was. It sounded like praise when I was young. Eventually, I understood the translation. Nora can handle being disappointed. Nora can wait. Nora will forgive us. Nora will pay. The first Sunday in October, my parents invited me to dinner. When I arrived, a presentation was already displayed on their television. A gold sun rose over a painted mountain. Solara House Rest is a revolution. Chloe stood beside the screen wearing a cream-colored blazer. Dad handed me a glass of wine. "Your sister has finally created something serious." "Finally," Chloe said. "I mean, something scalable," Dad corrected quickly. Mom sat on the sofa with a notebook in her lap. "I've already written down 12 marketing ideas." Chloe smiled at me. "I want your professional opinion." That should have warned me. Chloe never wanted my professional opinion. She wanted my professional approval. She clicked to the next slide. Solara House would sell imported herbal tea, silk sleep masks, scented journals, skincare products, and online healing sessions for professional women suffering from burnout. Are you certified to provide healing sessions? I asked. Chloe's smile tightened. They're emotional rest consultations. What does that mean? It means helping women reconnect with themselves. How? Through conversation. So, life coaching again. Mom looked at me sharply. Let her finish. The presentation continued. Chloe planned to rent a luxury apartment near downtown Alexandria. The living room would serve as a filming studio. She needed a new SUV because her current Honda did not match the Solera House brand. She wanted a new MacBook, professional lighting, custom packaging, imported, inventory, a website, and a launch party for 50 local influencers. The total startup cost was $47,000. Dad leaned forward. Your mother and I have agreed to contribute $15,000. I nearly spilled my wine. You're giving her $15,000? It's an investment. In what? Chloe crossed her arms. In me. Dad pointed toward the screen. She only needs another $32,000. I stared at him. Then she should reduce the budget. Mom spoke gently, as if explaining something to a child. She doesn't need you to give her the money. Chloe sat beside me. You would just co-sign the business loan. No. She blinked. I had answered too quickly for her performance to begin. You haven't reviewed the projections. I saw the expenses. You haven't seen the revenue model. She displayed another slide. According to her forecast, Solera House would generate $18,000 in monthly revenue by its second month. What is that based on? I asked. Market research. What research? I surveyed my audience. You posted 3 Instagram polls. I have 11,000 followers. Most of your posts receive fewer than 100 likes. Her face changed. Dad set down his glass. What are you implying? I'm saying the sales projection is not supported by the engagement. You've always hated social media, Chloe said. I don't hate math. She clicked to another slide. The costs included $6,000 for a launch event. Why do you need a $6,000 party before you make your first sale? It's not a party. It's a brand activation. Call it whatever you want. It's still an expense. Chloe closed the laptop. I knew inviting you was a mistake. You asked for my opinion. No, I asked for support. They're not the same thing. Her eyes filled with tears. Mom moved to sit beside her. You didn't need to speak to her like that. Like what? Coldly. I reviewed the plan. You tore her apart. Chloe wiped her cheek. She's always done this. Done what? Made me feel stupid. I looked at my father. He would not meet my eyes. Chloe continued. When I wanted to study photography, she said it wasn't practical. When I started making candles, she criticized my prices. When I became a coach, she demanded to know whether I had certification. Those were reasonable questions. To you, she whispered. Everything is about rules and numbers to you. Dad pointed toward me. Apologize. For asking how she plans to repay a loan with my name on it. You're not listening, Mom said. This is about family. No, it's about $32,000. Dad stood. You approve contracts worth millions at work. For my employer using their money. You earn more than anyone in this family. That does not make me Chloe's bank. Chloe stood and ran upstairs. A bedroom door slammed. Mom glared at me. You should leave. I picked up my purse. Dad followed me to the front door. Thanksgiving is 6 weeks away, he said. You have time to reconsider. I don't need 6 weeks. You will sign it. No, I won't. He grabbed my arm. Not hard enough to leave a bruise, but hard enough to stop me. Your sister needs one person to believe in her. She has 2. That isn't enough. I pulled my arm away. Then find a 3rd person. When I reached my car, I looked back at the house. Chloe was standing at the upstairs window. She was no longer crying. She was smiling. The next morning, I woke to 17 messages. Aunt Ruth wrote, I heard what happened. Chloe is devastated. My cousin Sam wrote, you could have declined without insulting her entire life. An old family friend wrote, success means nothing if you forget who supported you. At 8:15, Chloe posted a video. She never said my name. She did not need to. She sat in front of a window wearing no visible makeup. Soft piano music played behind her. Sometimes the person who should support you most becomes threatened when you finally discover your purpose. She paused. I shared a dream with someone I love. Instead of listening, she mocked my education, my career history, and even the community I've built. A tear rolled down her cheek. I'm not posting this for sympathy. I'm sharing it because emotional abuse often hides behind words like honesty and logic. By lunchtime, the video had more than 8,000 views. The comments were predictable. Protect your peace. She's jealous of your light. Family can be your first bully. Then someone asked whether Chloe had expected me to finance the entire business. Chloe replied, I offered to repay every dollar. She simply needs control. That was a lie. But lies did not require documentation when they were delivered with flattering lighting and sad music. I typed a response. My best friend Maya called before I posted it. Maya and I had met during our first week of college. She worked as a civil litigation paralegal and possessed the calm voice of someone who regularly watched angry people make expensive mistakes. Delete whatever you're writing, she said. How do you know I'm writing something? Because I know you. She's telling thousands of people I abused her. And if you respond, she'll post another video titled, My sister is trying to silence me. So I do nothing. You save everything. Why? Because people who weaponize public sympathy eventually forget which lies they told in private. I took screenshots. 3 days later, my phone displayed a credit monitoring alert. New hard inquiry detected. The inquiry came from Dominion Community Bank. I had never applied for anything there. I called the bank and spent 20 minutes being transferred between departments. Eventually, I reached a fraud specialist named Dana Lee. Do you recognize Solara House, LLC? She asked. My stomach tightened. It belongs to my sister. Are you an owner of that company? No. There was a pause. Are you certain I would know if I owned half of my sister's business? Miss Hayes, an application lists you as a 49% owner and personal guarantor. I stood from my desk. I never signed an application. The file includes your electronic signature. I don't care what it includes. I didn't sign it. Dana's voice became more careful. Did you provide your sister with your driver's license? No. Tax returns? No. Employment information? No. The application contains all three. My mouth went dry. Has money been released? Not yet. Our verification system flagged a discrepancy. What discrepancy? I can't discuss the full file by phone. You need to come to a branch with identification. I left work early. Dana met me in a private office. She was around 40, with rectangular glasses and an expression that suggested she trusted paper more than people. She placed the application in front of me. My full name appeared at the top. My social security number was correct. My salary was accurate down to the dollar. The file contained a scan of my driver's license and the first page of my previous year's tax return. At the bottom was my signature. It looked almost perfect. Almost. My real signature leans farther to the right, I said. Dana nodded. Do you recognize this email address the application used? Nora Hayes Consulting at Outlook.com. No. The phone number? It belonged to my father's bookkeeping office. Dana turned another page. The loan officer received an email from that account confirming you understood the guarantee. What did it say? She read it aloud. I'm proud to support my sister's vision and understand that family requires sacrifice. I felt something colder than anger. Someone had not only stolen my identity, they had written dialogue for me. Who submitted this? I can't disclose that yet. It was Chloe. Possibly. But the application was uploaded from an internet address associated with Hayes Tax and Bookkeeping, my father's business. I stared at her. What happens now? You need to file an identity theft report. We'll freeze this application and begin an investigation. And my family. Do not confront anyone until you understand the full situation. Why Dana placed a second page in front of me. It showed 2 more recent credit inquiries. One came from a Maryland lender. The other came from an online bank registered in Utah. This may not be an isolated application, she said. I drove home in silence. Halfway there, Dad called. Your mother says you still haven't apologized. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot. Did you submit a loan application using my identity? Silence. Then he laughed. What are you talking about? Solera House? Dominion Community Bank? I don't know anything about that. The application came from your office. Then someone used our internet connection. It also contained my tax return. You've given us tax documents before. 3 years ago. So? Did you give them to Chloe? His voice hardened. Be careful what you accuse people of. I asked a question. You're paranoid. Did you give her my documents? You know what your problem is? You think your corporate job makes you smarter than everyone. That isn't an answer. You humiliated your sister and now you're inventing crimes because you want to punish her. He hung up. 10 minutes later, Chloe texted me. Dad says you're accusing me of identity theft. This is exactly why I'm afraid of you. She did not ask what I had found. She already knew. That evening, she posted another video. This time, there was no piano music. She wore a gray sweatshirt and stared into the camera. I never thought I would speak about this publicly. A family member has threatened to accuse me of a serious crime because I refused to abandon my business. Her voice trembled. If anything happens to me or Solera House, people deserve to know the truth. Maya watched the video from my couch. She's moving quickly, she said. She knows the bank froze the application. Your father probably told her. He claims he knows nothing. Your father once claimed the dent in his truck was caused by extreme heat. That was Chloe's explanation, and he believed her. 2 days later, Mom called me at work. She was crying so loudly that I could barely understand her. Chloe hasn't eaten. Then she should eat. She says you're trying to have her arrested. I didn't forge her signature. She made a mistake. I stopped typing. What mistake? Mom became silent. You just said she made a mistake. I meant with the business plan. No, you didn't. Nora, please. She believed you would eventually help. I told her no in front of all 3 of you. She thought you would change your mind. That does not authorize her to sign my name. She didn't sign your name. Then who did? I don't know. You knew enough to call it a mistake. Mom lowered her voice. Your sister is fragile. And that makes fraud acceptable? She could lose everything. It isn't hers. You have always been stronger than she is. There it was again, the sentence that excused everything. When Chloe broke my camera, I was stronger. When she spent the money saved for my graduation trip, I was stronger. When she told our relatives I had bullied her in high school, I was stronger. Being stronger never meant I hurt less. It meant I was expected to remain quiet longer. I'm not fixing this for her, I said. Mom's crying stopped instantly. Then don't come to Thanksgiving. She hung up. The next day, Human Resources asked me to attend a confidential meeting. My manager, Paul, was already in the room. An HR representative placed a printed email in front of me. We received an anonymous complaint. The email claimed that I had used confidential company systems to investigate a family member's finances. It also claimed I had threatened to report Chloe unless she transferred ownership of Solera House to me. Paul looked uncomfortable. Nora, I know this sounds unusual, but we have to investigate. I never access company systems for this. Can you prove that? You have access logs. We're reviewing them. Who sent the complaint? It was anonymous. I read the email again. One sentence said, Nora often tells people they are too emotional to understand business. Chloe had said almost the same thing in her first video. I was placed on administrative leave. For the first time, I became truly afraid. Not of losing my parents, not even of losing Chloe. I was afraid of losing the career I had spent 10 years building. Maya came over with Thai food. I should confront them, I said. No, they attacked my job, and they want you angry. I am angry. Then be angry here. She opened her laptop. Outside this house, you are calm, confused, and cooperative. You make me sound like a criminal. No, I make you sound like someone dealing with criminals. After dinner, I searched for an old tax return. 3 years earlier, Mom had asked me to upload financial documents into a shared family cloud folder because Dad's bookkeeping office was changing computers. I had forgotten that the folder existed. Apparently, everyone else had forgotten that I still had access. There were hundreds of client folders. I did not open them. One folder was labeled Family Templates. Inside were copies of my driver's license, tax return, passport, and a blank document containing 5 samples of my signature. My hands began to shake. Maya leaned toward the screen. Don't download anything yet. There's a Solera House folder. Take pictures of the screen. Preserve the file names and timestamps. Inside the Solera House folder were loan drafts, income projections, and copies of emails supposedly written by me. Then I found a spreadsheet. The file name was guarantors_master. Columns listed names, credit scores, income available, home equity, and cooperation risk. My name appeared first. Nora Hayes, cooperation risk, medium. Pressure point, family reputation, plan B. Thanksgiving, signing. Aunt Ruth's name was beneath mine. Cooperation risk low. Pressure point, grandchildren. 9 names appeared on the spreadsheet. Some belonged to relatives. Others appeared to be clients of my father's bookkeeping business. At the bottom was a note. Need genuine signature from Nora before final verification. Backdate agreement if necessary. Maya stared at it. This is bigger than Chloe. I called Dana. She instructed me to stop accessing the folder and contact the investigators assigned to the bank's fraud referral. The following afternoon, I sat in a conference room across from Special Agent Sophia Ruiz and Special Agent Owen Price. Ruiz worked with an FBI financial crimes task force. Price was with IRS criminal investigation. Ruiz opened a folder. We've been reviewing a pattern of small business applications connected to stolen taxpayer information. My father's office. It appears in multiple data trails. Is he stealing from clients? We don't know the extent of his involvement. What about Chloe? Price answered. Solera House applied for financing through 5 institutions. 2 applications used your identity. 1 used your aunt's. Another used a former client of your father's office. What is the total? $286,000. I laughed once, not because it was funny, because the $47,000 presentation had suddenly become the smallest lie in the room. Why do they still need me to sign $32,000? Ruiz slid the draft family agreement toward me. The Dominion application was frozen because the lender requested live verification from the guarantor. The applicants then claimed you would sign an in-person agreement before November 27th. Thanksgiving. Yes, so they want a real signature. They may be trying to create evidence that you approved the financing from the beginning. They want me to erase the crime for them. That is one possibility. What do you need me to do? Do not reveal the investigation. You want me to lie to my family? I want you to avoid warning potential subjects before we preserve the evidence, Price added. Continue behaving as though you know only about the first application. What happens if I refuse to sign? Ruiz looked at me steadily. They may escalate. They did. Chloe's official Solera House launch was scheduled for the first Saturday in November at a rooftop venue in Alexandria. 3 days before the event, she announced that the venue had canceled because of malicious interference. Then she named me. My sister Nora contacted the venue and falsely claimed my business was under criminal investigation. Dad called within minutes. You've gone too far. I never contacted the venue. They have an email from you. Who told you that, Chloe? That is not evidence. She has a screenshot. Chloe sent it to me. The message appeared to come from my personal email address. It warned the venue that Solera House was involved in fraud. The timestamp was 2:13 p.m. on Tuesday. At 2:13 p.m. Tuesday, I had been in the HR conference room, handing over my phone and work laptop for forensic review. Maya helped me obtain written confirmation. I sent it privately to the venue manager. He called me that evening. Miss Hayes, we didn't cancel because of your email. Why did you cancel? The card used for the deposit was reversed as fraudulent. Whose card? I can't disclose, the account holder. Was it connected to my name? He hesitated. It was connected to a business that listed you as an owner. I forwarded the information to Agent Ruiz. The next morning, Chloe held a live stream outside the locked venue. She cried for 22 minutes. Nora can produce all the paperwork she wants, she said, but paperwork is not truth. More than 600 people were watching. Someone in the comments asked why the venue had really canceled. Chloe answered too quickly. Because Dominion froze the operating account after Nora denied her guarantor authorization. Maya paused the recording. Did Dominion publicly explain that no? Did you tell your parents no? Then Chloe just admitted she knows exactly which authorization was rejected. I saved the video before she deleted it. That was the first crack in her story. The second involved a MacBook. A week later, Chloe filed a police report accusing me of stealing a new laptop from my parents' porch. She claimed the computer had been purchased for Solera House and delivered while Mom and Dad were away. According to Chloe, I had entered the house using an old key. 2 police officers came to my townhouse. One asked, "Do you own a silver MacBook Pro?" "Yes, it's 4 years old." "Your sister says you recently obtained a new one." "My sister says many things." "Do you have security cameras?" I showed them footage from my doorbell camera. At 4:42 p.m. on the day of the alleged theft, Dad's truck stopped outside my townhouse. He walked toward my door, carrying a sealed Apple box. He placed it on the porch, took a photograph, picked it up again, and drove away. The officer watched the footage twice. Why would he do that? To create a photograph proving the computer had been at my house? Where is the computer now? I don't know. The serial number was later traced to a purchase made through a business credit account opened under my name. Dad had tried to manufacture evidence for a false police report. When questioned, he claimed Chloe had asked him to leave a surprise gift at my house. Chloe claimed Dad had misunderstood her. Mom claimed everyone was under stress. No one apologized. Instead, Chloe posted, "My sister manipulated security footage to make our father look guilty." I began to understand her strategy. Every failed lie became evidence that I possessed extraordinary power. If the bank rejected her, I controlled the bank. If a venue canceled, I controlled the venue. If a camera contradicted her, I controlled the camera. Chloe did not need to prove I was guilty. She only needed people to believe that I was capable of anything. Aunt Ruth still believed her. Ruth was Mom's older sister, a retired elementary school principal who considered family loyalty a moral achievement. She called me one evening. "You need to stop before your parents lose their business." "I didn't start this. You reported them. They used my identity. Your father said it was a misunderstanding. Check your credit report." She became quiet. "Why?" "Just check it." "Are you threatening me?" "No, I'm warning you." The next morning, Ruth called again. Her voice sounded smaller. "There's an inquiry from Maryland Enterprise Lending. Did you apply for a business loan?" "No." "Did you agree to guarantee Solera House?" "No." "But your name is on their financing spreadsheet." Ruth inhaled sharply. "I gave Elaine my retirement statements last year." "Why?" "She said Martin could help reduce my taxes." "Freeze your credit and file a report." "I can't report my own sister." "Then they may use you again." "She wouldn't do this." "Someone did." Ruth refused to report it. 2 days later, Chloe visited her with flowers. That evening, Ruth posted in the family group. I reviewed the issue with Elaine and Chloe. Nora misunderstood a routine pre-qualification and has frightened people unnecessarily. I called her. What did they say to you? That no money was funded. That doesn't make the application legal. Your father said it was normal paperwork. Did Chloe ask you to sign anything? Ruth hung up. The agents later learned that Ruth had signed a statement claiming she had verbally authorized the credit inquiry. My family had found their first successful pressure point. That night, I almost quit cooperating. I told Agent Ruiz that the investigation was destroying every relationship I had. You are not required to continue, she said. That's it. What did you expect me to say? That I have a duty to stop them. You don't. Her answer surprised me. You're responsible only for deciding what you can live with, she continued. I thought about the 9 names in the spreadsheet. Then I thought about the word beside mine. Medium. They believed I could be pressured. They believed my resistance had a limit. Tell me what you need, I said. The next attack targeted my job again. HR's forensic review proved that I had never accessed restricted systems. I was scheduled to return Monday. On Sunday evening, Paul called me. There's another complaint. What now? This one includes an audio recording. The recording appeared to capture me saying, if Chloe doesn't shut down Solara House, I'll make sure no bank ever works with her again. The voice sounded like mine, but the rhythm was wrong. The sentence had been assembled from clips of old voicemail messages and family videos. Paul admitted that the recording was suspicious, but HR postponed my return while an outside specialist examined it. Chloe posted that justice was finally happening. Maya wanted me to release the fake recording alongside the source clips. Agent Ruiz advised me not to. Let her believe it worked. I'm still suspended, and she is becoming careless because she thinks you're desperate. I am desperate. That does not mean she knows it. 2 days later, Chloe called me directly. It was the first time we had spoken since I discovered the loan application. Her voice was warm. Nora, I hate what this has become. You created it. I reacted badly. You forged my signature. I never forged anything. Then why are you calling? Because Mom is falling apart. Mom is helping you. She's trying to save the family. By pretending to be me? Chloe sighed. You always make everything sound criminal. That is difficult to avoid when discussing crimes. She became quiet. Then the softness vanished from her voice. You're not going back to work, are you? I gripped the phone. What? I heard your suspension was extended. Who told you? People talk. No one at my company knows you. You'd be surprised who knows me. It was not a confession. It was a threat. Then her voice softened again. Come to Thanksgiving. Sign the guarantee and all of this ends. What ends? The fighting, the complaints, the misunderstandings. You mean the attacks on my job? I didn't say that. You didn't need to. She lowered her voice. Do you really want to spend Christmas alone? I wanted to tell her about the agents. I wanted her to feel 1 second of the fear she had given me. Instead, I said, send me the agreement. I knew you would calm down. I said, send it. Dad emailed the document 10 minutes later. It was not a standard bank guarantee. It was a private family loan agreement claiming that I had voluntarily agreed to provide $32,000 6 weeks earlier. The document was backdated to the night of Chloe's presentation. It also claimed I had authorized her to use my financial records for all related financing activities. My signature would not simply make me responsible for the debt. It would help them explain every document they had already stolen. I forwarded the agreement to Ruiz. Her reply contained 6 words. They are trying to manufacture consent. Dad called the next day. Did you get the agreement? Yes, we'll sign it at Thanksgiving. I haven't agreed. You're coming. Mom told me not to. Your mother was emotional. And Chloe? She wants peace. No, she wants my signature. Dad lowered his voice. Listen carefully. Ruth will be there. Dennis will be there. Your cousins will be there. We are going to discuss this like adults. You mean you're going to pressure me in front of witnesses? I mean you won't create a scene in front of people you respect. I looked at the spreadsheet. Plan B, Thanksgiving, signing. Fine, I said. I'll come. Thanksgiving dinner began at 4. My parents' house looked like a holiday catalog. Mom had placed candles along the dining table and tied name cards to small decorative pumpkins. Chloe wore a cream sweater and almost no makeup. It was the same costume she wore whenever she wanted to look fragile. Aunt Ruth avoided my eyes. Uncle Dennis, Dad's business partner, sat near the head of the table. For 2 hours, no one mentioned the agreement. Mom discussed recipes. Dad talked about football. Chloe quietly described the emotional damage caused by the canceled launch. Everyone pretended we were a normal family. Then dessert arrived. Dad placed the loan agreement beside my plate. He set down a silver pen. Now, he announced, we are going to resolve this family conflict. 12 relatives turned toward me. Mom squeezed my shoulder. Don't embarrass this family, Nora. You're the successful one. Chloe's eyes immediately filled with tears. I promise I'll repay every dollar. I picked up the pen. Dad smiled. Then I snapped it in half. I'm not signing anything. The room went silent. Dad's face turned red. You came here just to humiliate us. No. You invited everyone because you thought I'd be too ashamed to say no. Mom pulled her hand away. After everything we did for you. What did you do for me? We raised you. That was your responsibility. A cousin coughed into his napkin. Dad struck the table with his palm. You owe this family. I do not owe Chloe a car. It isn't only a car. I know, it's an apartment, a computer, a launch party, and permission to use my identity. Chloe covered her face. Stop attacking me. I said one sentence. You're calling me a criminal in front of everyone. No, I'm refusing to sign. Aunt Ruth spoke carefully. Nora, perhaps you could sign a smaller amount. No. You know Chloe is trying. I know she has never repaid any of you. Chloe stood. I can't do this. She ran from the room. Mom pointed toward the door. Get out. Dad pushed the unsigned agreement toward me. You will regret this. No, I said. You will. I took my coat and left. The next morning, Dad called. We're having a family meeting at 2. I thought I was no longer part of the family. Don't be dramatic. What is the meeting about? You are going to apologize. Then you are going to sign. No. Nora, you embarrassed your mother. You made Chloe physically ill. Ruth barely slept. That sounds difficult. Be here at 2. I looked at the 3 fraudulent applications on my kitchen counter. I'll be there. Ruiz and Price had already planned to interview my parents separately. The family meeting changed the timing. After speaking with their supervisors and coordinating with the local financial crimes investigators, they agreed to come to the house. They were not coming as my guests. They were coming because several preservation warrants had been approved that morning. At 2 o'clock, I returned to my parents' house. Dad, Mom, Chloe, Aunt Ruth, and Uncle Dennis were waiting in the living room. The unsigned loan agreement sat on the coffee table. Dad pointed toward an empty chair. Sit down. I remained standing. You said the family should hear the truth. We are going to discuss what you did last night, Mom said. What I did? You humiliated us, Dad answered. You embarrassed your sister in front of everyone. Chloe sat beside Mom with a blanket around her shoulders. I barely slept. Dad pushed the agreement toward me. You're going to sign today. Then you're going to call everyone who attended dinner and apologize. I looked at the signature line. No. Dad stood so quickly that the coffee table shook. Then why did you come? The doorbell rang. Mom frowned. Who is that? 2 people who have questions about Solera House. Chloe's head lifted. What people? I opened the door. Agent Ruiz entered first. Agent Price followed, carrying a leather folder. Dad stared at them. This is a private family matter. Ruiz removed her credentials. Special Agent Sofia Ruiz, FBI, Financial Crimes. Price displayed his badge. Special Agent Owen Price, IRS, Criminal Investigation. Chloe became completely still. Ruiz looked around the room. We're investigating several loan applications connected to Solara House and Hayes Tax and Bookkeeping. Dad turned toward me. You called the FBI. No, I said. The banks did. Price placed 3 documents on the coffee table. Each one carried my name. Each contained a different version of my forged signature. He looked at Chloe. We would like to know who submitted these applications. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't understand. Nora told me she would help. I said no from the beginning. Dad stepped between us. This is a misunderstanding. Nora was supposed to sign yesterday. Ruiz glanced at the unsigned contract. Was this agreement intended to authorize applications that had already been submitted? Dad opened his mouth. Mom grabbed his arm. Martin, don't answer that. Price slowly opened his folder. That is exactly what we came to discuss. Uncle Dennis stood. I think everyone needs legal counsel. That is your right, Ruiz said. Dennis sat down again. Chloe looked at me. You planned this. No, you planned Thanksgiving. I simply refused to cooperate. Price laid out the bank records. Solara House submitted 5 applications, requesting a total of $286,000. Dad stared at the number. 5. Mom turned toward Chloe. You said there were 2. Chloe snapped. Stop talking. Everyone looked at her. For the first time, she had forgotten to sound fragile. Dad picked up one of the applications. This lists Nora as an owner. Ruiz nodded. 2 applications list her as a 49% owner and guarantor. I knew about one application, Dad said quickly, the smaller one. I looked at him. So you did know. His face changed. I knew Chloe was preparing documents. With my social security number, I assumed you would agree. I told you no. You were emotional. I said one word. Mom began to cry. We never wanted this to happen. Price placed another document on the table. This application lists Martin Hayes as personal guarantor for $94,000. Dad grabbed it. What? The file contained his tax information, home equity estimate, and signature. I never signed this. Chloe looked away. Mom whispered. Chloe. Dad turned toward her. You forged my name. It was preliminary. You used our house as collateral. The lender had not approved it. That is not what I asked. Chloe pulled the blanket away. You said you supported the business. I gave you $15,000. And I needed more. $94,000. I was going to repay it. You have never repaid anyone. Chloe stared at him. You sound like Nora. Dad looked as if she had slapped him. Price placed a 3rd document in front of Mom. It was a $70,000 credit application bearing her signature. Mom stared at it. I didn't sign this. You told me I could use the home equity, Chloe said. For $15,000. You said you believed in me. That does not mean you can forge my name. I watched my mother say the exact sentence she had refused to understand when the forged name belonged to me. Dad turned toward the agents. I had no knowledge of these larger applications. Chloe laughed bitterly. You gave me the client files. I gave you access to create projections. You showed me which relatives had good credit. I never told you to submit applications. You created the family pressure plan. I was trying to get Nora to support you. You told me she would eventually sign. Uncle Dennis stood again. Everyone needs to stop talking. Price looked at him. Mr. Hayes, please remain seated. Dennis froze. Ruiz placed a printout of the guarantor spreadsheet on the coffee table. We recovered this file from cloud storage associated with Hayes Tax and Bookkeeping. Aunt Ruth saw her name. Her face went white. What is cooperation risk? No one answered. She read the line beneath her name. Pressure point, grandchildren. Ruth looked at Mom. You told me Chloe might hurt herself, and my grandchildren would blame me. Mom covered her mouth. I was scared. You used my grandchildren to make me sign a false statement? I was protecting Chloe. From what? Mom had no answer. Ruiz continued. We also found signature templates, tax returns, driver's licenses, and drafted emails written in the names of several proposed guarantors. Dad pointed at Dennis. He manages the cloud system. Dennis looked at Chloe. She told me Nora had consented. You wrote the emails, Chloe said. You gave me the wording. Because Dad said Nora needed to sound supportive. Dad shouted. I never told you to impersonate her. You said the banks needed reassurance, not fake emails. The alliance collapsed in less than a minute. Each of them had spent 6 weeks insisting nothing illegal had happened. Now they were arguing about which illegal act belonged to which person. Ruiz allowed them to speak. Then she placed photographs on the table. One showed Chloe entering a shipping store. Another showed her purchasing prepaid phones. A third showed her sitting at a public computer used to access the false Nora Hayes email account. Chloe glanced at Dad. He looked genuinely shocked. We also recovered deleted messages, Ruiz said. Chloe's face tightened. What messages Price read from a printed page? Once Nora signs at Thanksgiving, the old applications look authorized. Martin can say the dates were an accounting error. Dad stared at Chloe. You wrote that? She pointed at Dennis. He suggested backdating the agreement. Dennis shook his head. I said a corrected date might solve the bank issue. I did not tell you to forge anything. Price read another message. If Nora refuses pressure her job again, she won't risk her career over $32,000. I looked at Chloe. Her expression did not change. So it was you, I said. She shrugged. You were never supposed to lose the job. You sent false complaints to my employer. I needed you to understand the consequences of saying no, of abandoning your family. Ruiz closed the file. Miss Hayes attempting to coerce a victim into validating fraudulent applications creates additional legal problems. Chloe's voice sharpened. She is not a victim. Dad stared at her. Chloe, stop talking. She has everything. A house, a career, perfect credit. People like her always win. Mom whispered, What does that have to do with using her identity? Chloe turned toward her. You gave her everything. Mom looked confused. We gave you more. You gave me things. You gave Nora respect. I almost laughed. Respect. She walks into a room and everyone listens. Because I spent 10 years becoming good at my job? You think that makes you better than me. No, I think it makes my income mine. Chloe looked at the agents. She wanted this. She wanted to punish me, Ruiz replied. The investigation began before Miss Hayes knew our names. The banks misunderstood. 5 banks. Chloe's voice rose. She manipulated them. She manipulated the bank, the venue, the police, her employer, and federal investigators. Price asked. Yes, he nodded slowly. That is an ambitious theory. Mom began sobbing. I didn't know about the prepaid phones. Dad spoke over her. I didn't know about the applications in my name. Dennis said I only prepared templates. Ruth stood. You all knew enough when it was Nora's name. No one answered. Agents and local investigators began securing the office computers, phones, and financial records. No one was arrested in the living room that afternoon. That would have looked more dramatic. The truth was slower. Devices were collected, accounts were frozen, statements were taken, attorneys were hired. For months, my family continued blaming one another. Chloe insisted Dad had designed the plan. Dad claimed Chloe had exceeded his instructions. Dennis said he believed all guarantors had verbally consented. Mom said she only made phone calls because Chloe was emotionally unstable. Aunt Ruth finally filed her own identity theft report. The investigation lasted 11 months. The evidence showed that Chloe intended to move most of the approved funds into an account connected to a marketing company in Florida. There was no realistic expansion plan. There was no inventory order large enough to justify the loans. There was no long-term business strategy. Chloe had purchased a one-way ticket to Miami for the week after Thanksgiving. She planned to leave as soon as the largest loan cleared. She eventually pleaded guilty to bank fraud, aggravated identity theft, and conspiracy charges. My father and Uncle Dennis pleaded guilty to offenses connected to falsified loan records and the misuse of client tax information. Dad lost his bookkeeping business. Dennis lost his professional license. Mom avoided prison but received probation after admitting that she had called 2 lenders while pretending to be me and Aunt Ruth. At her sentencing, she said she had only wanted to protect Chloe. The judge asked, "Who were you protecting your older daughter from?" Mom had no answer. My employer's forensic specialist proved that the threatening recording had been assembled from old voicemail clips. HR reinstated me with back pay. Paul apologized. "We should have recognized the pattern sooner. You had to investigate. That doesn't mean we handled everything well." I accepted the apology, but transferred to a different department 6 months later. I needed an office where every conference room invitation did not make my heart race. Aunt Ruth froze her credit, corrected the fraudulent files, and began therapy. We speak occasionally. Our relationship is not repaired. It is being rebuilt, which is slower and more honest. My parents still send letters. Dad writes about the business he lost. Mom writes about how lonely she is and how much Chloe needs support. Neither has ever written a full sentence about what they did to me. I stopped reading the letters. Maya once asked whether I felt satisfied when Chloe was sentenced. I thought about the question. I felt relieved, not happy. No. You don't think she deserved it? She deserved the consequences. That sounds like satisfaction. It isn't the same. For years, my family called me strong whenever they needed me to suffer quietly. They called me successful whenever they wanted something. They called me cruel whenever I said no. I used to believe revenge meant destroying the person who hurt you. Now I know better. I did not destroy Chloe. I simply stopped protecting her from the truth. And sometimes, the deepest revenge is not raising your voice, ruining someone's life, or winning in front of a crowd. Sometimes, it is putting down the pen and letting their own signature become the evidence that ends them.